Alright, greetings. Welcome to what will most likely be a multi-part section on how to write a research paper. Just that. Okay. And this, of course, is the research paper lecture itself. This is a page to look back on as you're writing the proposal letter. This gives you the basic steps. So one of the first things that we're going to do here is actually do a little exercise. Draw a little pyramid. See if I can show you this one here. Will come up or not? You sort of see it. I drew two of them. You're just drawing a pyramid with four horizontal lines. I'm going to start at the top and work our way to the bottom. And you'll see numerous examples here where I kind of run through this process. It's good to look back at this page here. This tells you what we might limit or narrow things by. Time, place, era, location, political system, language, values. It's good to consider your viewpoint, like what's the main viewpoint you're going to take. Legal, medical, ethical, philosophical, for example. And these are some good examples, right? You start with a general topic like, I want to study police brutality. Okay, so narrow it down by location, time period. At the fourth step, I like to rephrase it into a question. At this point, I really just like to add more key terms. And also with the last step there, I'm just going to add a key term. So I continue to narrow it down as I go along. So we go from police brutality to police brutality in the U.S., police brutality in the U.S. today, to how can we retrain police to reduce police brutality in the U.S. today, to finally, how can we use psychology to retrain police in order to reduce police brutality in the U.S. today. And that's pretty good. It probably still needs some rephrasing with the word psychology there. Perhaps I could be more specific. And I did something similar here. Put in a key term, narrow it by location, time period, add a key term rephrased into a question, add one more key term. There you go. Now, for the sake of this lecture, we're going to skip the next few pages, but they're actually very interesting to look over when you're thinking about main ideas, how to find a primary source, and what types of things could be appropriate to study for a research paper. Certainly gives you lots of ideas. This page focuses on the parts. We will have a proposal letter, the annotated bibliography, the extra credit multimodal project, the extra credit abstract, and the research paper itself, which is a 10-page paper. So most likely we'll cover these separately, these points here. Although on this next page it does cover the proposed letter, gives you the 5 points you want to cover in that letter. Gives you more information on that. Okay. Now when we talk about research, one of the key points is understand the difference between primary and secondary sources. In fact, as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm thinking perhaps I should do just a secondary video just on that topic itself. It's that important to the research process. So I'll just summarize it here to basically say that primary sources are first-hand accounts of events. As you can see, I divided it into a couple of categories. Primary sources can take the form of art. It can take the form of speech, like in speeches, interviews, court cases, and also documents and studies, particularly scientific studies. These really come in handy when you're writing a research paper. And then you have your secondary sources. These are basically anything that you would find in your library or in a magazine or in a newspaper, something where you have an expert providing some analysis. That's what a secondary source is. And in a research paper, certainly you want to have both. You want to typically have one primary source and a series of secondary sources. And this does continue to expand upon the difference between the two. And then we have examples. These would be primary sources. Any speech, a memoir, a scientific study, any of these could be a primary source upon which you could devise some research questions and then study in a research paper. This page basically goes over some of the differences. If you look in your library database, you'll find all these secondary sources. They just give you some examples of how these look. And that's actually part of the proposed letter explanation. Okay. The annotated bibliography, also a thing that we'll cover separately. So we'll just skip ahead there. The abstract is extra credit. It's an extra credit part of this assignment. Essentially, you answer these 5 questions in a short paragraph. Put that at the beginning of your research paper. That's your abstract. You can roughly think of an abstract as a summary of your research paper that goes before it, and it would be something that people like yourself, students, would read before they read your work. So it's good to remember what Sherlock Holmes said. It is a huge mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. Right? That very much explains the research process. And also this idea of confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is just that. It's when you look for information that is already consistent with your existing beliefs. True research demands that we ask questions search for answers no matter what they are, no matter how they make us feel. Okay, we're going to take a look at organizing the paper. First thing you have here is your introduction. Basically, think of that as a lot like a normal introduction for this class. You have a hook. You have 3 to 4 pieces of background information. You have an essay map. That's a little different. We'll take a look at what that is. And a thesis statement. All right, so let's take a look at that and come back to this page. So what is the essay map? That third part of the introduction. The essay map is usually about 3 to 4 sentences where you provide a roadmap for the paper. What is the reader going to see in the paper? You're going to look at A, B, C, and then D, and just kind of explain the parts. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do the next thing. In an effective essay map, you will note here that you use transitions, right? Transitional expressions between each phrase or sentence. You do use the first person, you use I, and we use that a specific verb that helps us understand what you're going to do in that part. Are you going to argue? Are you going to analyze? Are you going to explore? Are you going to define? Are you going to compare? Are you going to do a causal analysis, a cost-benefit analysis? So add that in there. About 3 to 4 sentences of a map goes right there. You follow that up with a 1-page history on your topic. Basically, you want to keep that to 20 years before your topic. So if you're studying a current topic, like say, for example, if you're studying, because it is current, it does work in this example, COVID-19, that started in really the fall of 19. So what you would want to do is look back to 1999. You would want to look back at the last 20 years and look at any political events, laws, organizations, or people that relate to your topic as we understand it today. You will follow it up with your lit review, part 3. Which is probably best explained in this model here. You want to provide theoretical foundation for your research. Pardon me. Studies that are generally related to your topic. Studies that are similar to yours. And there you go. And there you conclude with the research gap, which sets up the rest of the paper. The lit review sets up the questions. Actually, if we go back, we cover questions when we look at the proposed letter. So those are going to be earlier. The questions are here. Research questions are usually how or why questions that are broad and complex. Excuse me. They are timely, they're challenging. You want to ask about 6 to 8 of them early on in the paper. And that takes us to the end of this page here. Okay, so we will pick up there with the next part. This concludes research paper lecture part 1.